Welcome everybody to yet another Coffee Time with Hako, the show where I have my morning coffee and then I app off into the void. Well met friends, today we're having a latte in a Sons of Caledon mug. Look at it, isn't it beautiful? Available now in the store. It's been a few days since my last upload. I've been fencing off the backyard for Casca and I've also kind of just been taking it easy. We don't have too much going on in the game now and I did so much work before Adher's released. So now I'm kind of just catching my breath before the seed grind ensues. But what did I want to talk about in this video? I want to talk about Manato. Manato, the wolf Fyren that is a part of the Spook Shack faction. Now people, especially the husband lovers, seems to be very excited about Manato. And I keep getting the question like, oh Hako, what do you think like Manato is? So I'm gonna give you my honest thoughts after pondering this for a little bit. And fair warning, this video is gonna be completely speculative. I'm gonna attempt to predict the future based on what we know. And I think my track record when doing things like this so far hasn't been too bad, so let's get to it. Number one, this is a very easy, low-hanging fruit. What element is Manato? I would say 100% fire. And I think most of the community is kind of on board with this one. Because we did get accompanied by Manato during one part of the 2.1 story. And we can clearly see that he has fire, fire attached to his animations. He is also very fire coded with his black and his red. So I would say that quite a fair shot he is fire. But more importantly, what is his speciality? Attacker, stun, anomaly, support, defense, or rupture. Now, a lot of people seem to want him to be fire rupture. Now, after doing some pondering, I'm gonna say something that's gonna sound like I'm trolling, but hear me out. I think that Manato might be a fire stunner. And if this turns out to be true, I also think that a lot of people are gonna lose their shit because, we've had quite a few of them. But hear me out for a second. So what Zenless usually does is that they make a faction work really well together. And some good examples of this is the Stars of Lyra, it is the Yunkai Summit, it is the most recent Spook Shack, it's the Defense Force, it's Balebog, actually scratch Balebog, it's Victoria Housekeeping, and it's the Sons of Caledon. Now mind you, we have had a faction that has absolutely no synergy whatsoever put together, and this is also reflected in their Bangbu. But my point is, more often than not, in almost all of the cases, they make sure that the squad mates synergizes with, their other squad mates. So we have to ask ourselves, what kind of teammate would synergize with Alice and Joshua? Now, if Manato turns out to be a fire anomaly character, that would be a perfect match. But from what I've seen, he doesn't look anomaly coded. Mind you, I wouldn't say that Alice did at first either. When we first saw Alice, I thought that she might have been a support. Then we saw the rapier and I was thinking maybe rupture, maybe attacker. But yeah, it turns out to be anomaly. So could Manato be a fire anomaly and synergize super well with this team? Yeah, he could. He definitely could. And right now the only fire anomaly we have is Bernice and she's off-field. So maybe Manato is an on-field fire anomaly. Maybe. What I personally think is far more likely is that he's a fire anomaly character and he's gonna be a first stunner for anomaly characters. Kinda just like how Joshua is a support, specifically designed for anomaly agents, I think Manato might be a stunner made for anomaly agents. Now, how would a kit like that work? Well, maybe he puts on a debuff that makes the enemy takes twice the amount of damage from attribute anomalies while they're stunned. Something along those lines, or a stunned enemy, they have no internal cooldown of how often they can be afflicted by an attribute anomaly. There's many routes they can go down, and to me that is a route that would make a lot of sense if we just look at the squad mates. Now, what else do we know about Manato? Well, he can take a beating. In the 2.1 story, we see him blocking a door that comes flying, a very, very heavy door, and he squares up and takes it on his back. So, once again, he's obviously able to take a beating and able to do it for other characters. That might also be telling us a little bit of a clue what, his role is gonna be. So that could potentially make him a defense agent. And now we haven't had an S-rank one since Caesar, and she's the only S-rank defense agent we have. And I would probably say that defense is the most undercooked out of all the specialities. So if we have Fire Stunner, like specialized for Anomaly Agents as my number 1 guess for Manato, maybe defense would make it to number 2. And there's a bunch of ways they could, construct him in a defense position as well. Maybe he's able to absorb damage, taken by your on-field character, he takes that instead. And maybe he'll be the first character to, have some lifesteal, which, if you just think of the wolf, being a wolf Fire, I think it would be thematically kind of fitting. Now, I personally think that this route might be a lot less likely. And I think personally the biggest evidence against that is, just the fact that they're not too keen to release defense agents. At least not S-rank ones. And I do very much think that Manato is gonna be an S-rank, because if he was an A-rank, I feel like, why wouldn't they have released him together with his faction? Surely he would have been on Yusua's banner, yeah? So let's talk about what I've seen a lot of people, hoping. And it is that Manato is gonna be a Rupture Agent. Now I feel like this would be thematically fitting, because, he's obviously a big dude, he can take a lot of, hit. And Rupture Agents does seem to, all of them be scaling on HP. So from that perspective, I don't think that it would be weird if he was a Rupture Agent. Now the sample size we have of Rupture Agents is very small right now to know the actual direction they want to take the class, but we can take a little bit of a look at it in here. Agents with Rupture Speciality possesses great offense and survival capabilities, excelling at using sheer damage that ignores enemy defenses to deal massive damage. Now from this description, from what I'm getting is, slightly tankier main damage dealer, not so much enablers or, supporters. And is there any way to twist this role so he would be a perfect fit with Yusua and Alice, or, vice versa, where Yusua and Alice could provide something for Manato? I think it could be extremely interesting if Manato turned out to be a Rupture Agent. That being said, I'm not sure if that is gonna be the case. Having him as a Rupture Agent would be cool. I just don't, see the angle to make him work with the other squad mates unless they make him a Rupture Agent that also scales with Disorders and Anomaly proficiency. So now I put Rupture Manato as my number 3 on what I think is most likely. I don't know, I'm extremely torn between, Rupture as number 3 or Anomaly as number 3. Fire Anomaly maybe also working off the, synergizing super well with Disorders, like Alice Miyabi, could create some crazy teams with Alice. But Manato really doesn't strike me as Anomaly, so for that reason alone, having him be an HP scaler as a Rupture, I don't know, I find that slightly more likely. But yeah, for this, the biggest but is how do they make Rupture, fit in together with the rest of the Spook Shack members. So here is my predictions for Manato. Number 1. Fire Stunner specializes in enabling Anomaly Agents. If I was a betting man, that's right now what I would bet on. Number 2, Defense Agent. Number 3, Rupture Agent. Number 4, Anomaly Agent. I don't think support because we already have Yusua, and I don't think attacker because, how would they make that work? The real curveball is, of course, if he is, his own thing and he has no synergy with the rest of Spook Shack. These are my speculative guesses for Manato. Dear viewer, what do you think that Manato is? Let me know in the comments and let's see who is right. And everybody, as always, thank you so freaking much for watching. Have a big hug, and until next time, Hako out.
Oh, I wish that you could just take it easy. Lay back, fast the way I roll. So get off my tail, or else you will get to say hello to my jolly sharks. Got up, don't you know? Don't you know? You should know that I'll fight them all. These sharks got up, don't you know? Hurry up and get it done, but don't run my patience to the ground. If you need me here, these sharks got up, don't you know? Ooh, yeah, you better keep on. When I try, I'm second to none.